soundtrack.
What is up? Welcome back to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs Television. Once again, it's Kier. And today in the studio we have not only my co-host Jason Alley, we also have Erik Hanson, who is who's an author as well as runs Cradle to the Grave podcast.
I need to be referred to as author Erik Hanson from now on.
Yes.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here. We were talking earlier how we had not met before in person. I've had you on the podcast a couple of times, so
absolutely,
it's good to see you in person.
Yeah,
nice to meet you, Jason. And yeah, this is awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, it's kind of like a post-COVID get-together. You know, you finally get to meet
I'm down with
face-to-face.
post-COVID get-together.
So I just want to start. How did Cradle to the Grave podcast form?
How did it form? Well, I am a huge horror fan, and
As is this guy?
Yes. And I've been listening to podcasts over the years, about my favorite horror movies, and I was thinking, you know what? Why don't I try? Dip my foot into the podcast pool. There's so many horror podcasts out there.
There are.
And what makes my horror podcast different than everybody else's podcast?
Right.
And it's not really different, but the whole premise is I started in 1971, the year I was born. So from the cradle.
You have no problem telling your age, huh?
No, I'm 52 yees old. So, it's called Cradle to the Grave. So I start from the cradle,
Jason
1971.
started in 45. So
Hey, wait a second.
Well, and then so I picked 10 movies of each year of my life. And I asked 10 guests to come on. You've been on twice, Kier. And I think I'm going to have you come on in the future, Jason.
Great.
So, 10 movies from each year of my life. Right now, I'm currently in 1980. We just started the 80s. We're really getting into some really awesome films. The 1980s is probably my favorite decade in horror.
I would probably say it's
good.
our probably favorite decade in horror as well. Would you agree?
For 80s, 70s or 80s probably.
Definitely,
Yeah,
like
80s.
people
I didn't
our
really-
age,
yeah,
I
I didn't really-
mean, people like old like us, Jason.
Yeah.
They
Wait a second.
Well, like you guys, I wasn't born, so
Yeah.
I'm a 90s baby.
We're 3 months apart, Kier. You know
I've
it.
asked that question. I've asked that question a lot on my podcast. What's your favorite decade in horror? And 80s usually gets the winner. But
I would say 80s
yeah,
probably.
and it's been a blast. I've been doing it almost a year now. I've been getting a lot of really cool people to come on. From like my friend Dean from high school to Pulitzer Prize winning author Junot Diaz. So it's and then I'm getting local artists like Kevin Seconds. He's been on.
Okay.
A lot of different people from different walks of life, and it's been really awesome to get to meet these people and chat with them about my favorite genre of film, which I think Jason said it's the only genre of film.
The only one that matters. So my question for you was, going back to the podcast, is why did you choose a podcast over like any other method? I guess.
Probably convenience. I could do this with my laptop at home in my bedroom.
Right.
You get a good mic. I have a good mic, little setup, and it's just something I do on the weekends. I take a couple hours, Zoom, talk about horror movies. I can talk about horror movies without even having any notes. Just get together.
Yeah.
That's how I want the podcast to be. It's just like a get together with friends. We're just talking, and there's no like in-depth analysis. It's like, no, this movie sucked or this movie was awesome.
Right.
That's just a fun.
That's kind of how we
laid-back
are
thing.
in a way. We're not getting too analytical with it. We're pretty much just
So-
did you like it? Yeah. Did you not like it? No. Why? Because it was terrible.
Right.
Join us next time. And
But yeah, so I'll be doing the podcast, probably for the next couple of years. Like I said, it started in 71, and it's going to end when I die, from the cradle to the grave. So hopefully I don't die anytime soon.
Right. So you'll just continue doing it like as it gets
I
current?
have an idea for as soon as I get to the current year, which I think will be in 2026 is when I reach current times. I'm going to go backwards. So I'll go from 71 to 1922, where Nosferatu started.
Really?
So that's
okay.
the idea.
Yeah.
So it'll be grave to the cradle.
yeah.
Might be a little less horror films once you get into like the early 20s maybe. I'm not really for sure. So.
Yeah, definitely it'll be slim pickings the further back we get. But that's the idea to keep the podcast. We'll see how it goes, but
Not to transition, but you're also an author as well.
I did. Yeah, I wrote a book. My first novel is called Death Machine, and this was basically a result of the pandemic. I was I've been a musician since, I got out of high school. I've been in a bunch of bands in the Sacramento area. So that was my creative outlet, was writing, playing music. And when the pandemic hit, that all stopped. I just formed a new band, and we were ramping things up, and things were looking good. 2020 hits. There's nowhere to play music. The drummer moves away. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do now with my creative energy? Oh, guess I'll write a book. And I did it. It took me a year to write. I chipped away, on the weekends, or an hour here, an hour there. And I got almost 400 pages of a novel that takes place in the 1980s. It's basically an autobiography disguised as a horror film. A lot of what happens in the book happened to me growing up in the area in the 80s. It's based on a real life event. Somebody did send a letter to a newspaper claiming to be the Zodiac, that he was going to run over kids in his death machine on Halloween night in 1987. That's the premise of the book. So it's about these kids who hear that and what happens in their life at that time. So and it's been great. I recently
good reception from it and everything.
I recently went to the Sinister Creature Con.
That's
and
what it
I
was,
sold a bunch of books there. Got a lot of good reception and interest in the book. So I'm currently working on my second novel, which is a vampire book. Definitely, keeping it in the horror horror genre, but it's going slow. I think the podcast has taken up a lot of my time.
I understand that.
So it's harder to find time to write.
I understand. You definitely got to multitask for sure.
Yeah.
I know Jason had some questions just about, you guys are both horror guys.
Yes.
I think he was going to ask you some of your favorite.
Yeah.
Lay it on me, man.
I'm sure you have this worked out already. That's why I'm asking. Like, what are your top 5?
Oh, my top 5.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I don't know if I have it worked out, but my top 5, it fluctuates daily, right? So I'll probably go movies I can watch over and over and over again. Salem's Lot from 1979. It's a made-for-TV horror film.
Yeah.
Right? Love that film.
Yeah.
And it's generally scary.
Yeah, that window scene.
Still gives me nightmares, right? So Salem's Lot, The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah. Excellent.
The Shining, again, I'm showing my age. I'm picking a lot of these. And this movie from 1972 called The Night Stalker. Have you guys seen that?
Oh, yeah.
I have not seen that one.
It's another made-for-TV movie.
Yeah.
It's with Darren McGavin. It's a vampire film. It is awesome. My wife thinks it's stupid.
No way. No way.
I know.
Kolchak.
And I'm trying to convince her, no, Kolchak is awesome.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know if he's awesome. But
Yeah.
those are some of my favorite movies. And Jaws.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's a great list, man. Well, I definitely would love to have you back on the podcast again sometime, or on the show again sometime.
Yeah.
Where can people find you, and where can they get your book?
Well, you can go to Amazon. It's called Death Machine. Just Google Death Machine Erik Hanson. It'll pop up on Amazon. You can buy it there, $15. Or you can email me, and I can send you a signed copy. I don't know if there's going to be email links or somehow. Cradle to the Grave. Again, just Google Cradle to the Grave, and the first thing that pops up will be the link to the podcast. And it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, it's, wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, sounds great. Well, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on the show
Thank
once
you.
again.
This was great.
Thank you for watching SacTown Movie Buffs Television, and we'll be back again soon with another show for you. Have a great day.
Soundstripe. Soundstripe.